The Dehumanization of Zorka Petrovic. From Steamboat Willie to Bugs Bunny.
Duck season! Rabbit season! Rabbit season! Duck season! Rabbit season! I say it's duck season, and I say fire!
Anthropomorphic characters have been prevalent in the media for a long time. In fact, this kind of personification of character was used long before the media was even a concept. We can't be sure where exactly it started, as the use of anthropomorphic figures in storytelling actually predates humanity's written word. We see this in ancient myths. In Egyptian mythology, the depictions of their gods, of which there are many, all have not only a sacred animal, but the head of an animal in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. Ra, the ruler god and god of the sun, is depicted in Egyptian myth with a falcon's head, while some of his counterparts, like Bastet, the goddess of cats and protection and fertility, bears the head of a cat, and Anubis, god of the dead, has the head of a jackal. In Greco-Roman myth, every god and goddess has a sacred animal, although their faces didn't portray these sacred animals like they do in ancient Egyptian myth. These sacred animals are very important symbols of each god and are sacred as the name suggests them to be. However, they do often transform into these sacred animals in various myths, but they aren't prohibited from appearing as other animals. God of the sky and ruler of Olympus, Zeus's sacred animal is an eagle, but he has appeared in myths as a snake, swan, bull, among other animals. Though most of these myths actually involve Zeus turning into an animal to have sex with a woman, mortal or immortal. An example of this that more people might know is Aesop's fable, The Tortoise and the Hare. The Tortoise and the Hare is an old fable about a tortoise and a hare having a race. The hare is very fast and sure he will win, but the tortoise tells the hare that slow and steady wins the race. The hare laughs at this, and the race begins. The hare gets so far ahead of the tortoise that he figures he has time for a short nap before the tortoise reaches him. But as he sleeps, the tortoise passes him and wins the race. In this instance, Aesop takes the main characteristics of both these animals and turns them into personality traits that a human might have to show that these human qualities can affect our real lives. As children, we learn many lessons this way. Children's media especially is littered with anthropomorphic characters. Take, for example, Franklin, the kids' book and TV series.
Huh? Spiders! Where? Ah!
Just like in Aesop's The Tortoise and the Hare, Franklin uses animal characteristics to create characters with personalities children can easily understand.
What are we hiding from? That big, huge, gigantic, whatever it is!
If children see a turtle, they may think that its main trait is its speed, or lack thereof in this instance. This makes the characters easy for children to understand, even on a first meeting. On top of that, Franklin is relatable to kids. He has a mom, friends, goes to school, and deals with everyday kid problems.
We were first. Again? And we were second.
What's so great about coming in second when there's nobody to come in third, Bear?
I don't know.
This relatability helps children empathize with Franklin, and in turn, helps children empathize with others later in life. They see a turtle on TV who, although outwardly appears very different from them, faces the same kind of issues they do. This also helps children empathize with animals, as most of their favorite characters are depicted as humanoid versions of them.
Look out, Franklin! Get him, Beaver! Great save, Fox! Good pass, Snail! Thanks!
We see examples in Franklin. If Franklin goes to school, he doesn't want to ride the bus because he's scared, which is the same thing that a lot of kids face on the first day of school or kindergarten or whenever they start. There's also Franklin in the dark, where he's scared of the dark and he doesn't want to go to sleep. Also another thing kids see all the time. On the other hand, anthropomorphic characters are also used in stories that cover difficult topics, for the same reason they're used to teach children about empathy. A perfect example of this is Wile E. Coyote in the Looney Tunes.
What's cooking?
What's cooking, little friend? Why, you are.
Me?
Why, yeah!
Wile E. Coyote is always getting into trouble chasing Roadrunner. He gets run over, runs into walls, and even falls off cliffs in an attempt to catch the elusive Roadrunner.
Poor chap. He had his chance. Now he must take the consequences.
His actions may be human, but children realize that the things Wile E. Coyote does aren't nice and that they shouldn't do what he does. The choice to use a coyote was no random one either. Most children's stories depict coyotes and hyenas as the bad guys. So Wile E. being a coyote makes it even easier for children to disassociate from his actions and see him as bad and inhuman, even though he's human in all but appearance.
Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Wile E. Coyote. Genius.
I can easily understand why it should puzzle you that a person of my intelligence, IQ 207, super genius, should devote his valuable time chasing this ridiculous roadrunner.
It's easy for children to come to terms with the bad Wile E. Coyote does and how badly he gets hurt every episode when he is perceived as less than human.
Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Mud.
And remember, mud spelled backwards is dumb.
We can even see instances of this done in Greek myth. Remember earlier when I mentioned that Zeus usually turned into animals to have sex with women? Turning the characters into animals dehumanizes them in such a way that makes everyone perceive the actions done and the story itself as all right. Zeus rapes Hera, actually, but it's not often talked about because he did it as a snake, and snakes don't suffer human consequences. The dehumanization of both Hera and Zeus make the story easier to tell and understand because snakes are so far from human that we often don't perceive Zeus as a snake and Zeus as a human or god to be one and the same, even though they are. While anthropomorphism may not be as common in adult media, there are still many examples of it. While children's media sometimes uses anthropomorphic characters to allow people to disassociate from the bad in the story, in adult media, this is generally the only use of these types of characters, and it's not always used positively. Take propaganda, for example. War propaganda specifically aims to dehumanize their enemies through the media. Mainly posters, newspapers, writings, but also cartoons, like Die Fuhrer's Face by Disney.
Never will be slaves. He heil, but still we work like slaves, while the poor brags and lies and rants and raves. He heil, and work into our graves.
In which Donald Duck dreams about working in Nazi Germany with little food and time off. He wakes up at the end and proclaims how much he loves to be American.
Oh, boy! Am I glad to be a citizen of the United States of America? Oh.
But this isn't the worst of it. There are all kinds of posters from World War II that depict the Jewish as animals, and some ally posters that depict the Germans as violent animals like gorillas. This kind of dehumanization allows people to disconnect and not feel as bad about killing people from another country, because the media has made the enemy out to be violent animals. It takes away their humanity, takes away the human characteristics like the ability to love, to cry, to grieve, etc. This kind of propaganda is what allowed people in Nazi Germany to dismiss the Jewish. The Jewish were called rats, vermin, and were seen as little more than common house pests. This let the Nazis feel no guilt towards the Jewish or what they were doing to them. It allowed Nazi soldiers to dismiss the Jewish and their real human feelings by telling themselves that the Jewish weren't human and therefore didn't feel the way they did, couldn't love and care the way they did as humans. So what does this all have to do with Heartless by Nina Munjevac? It's easy to read Heartless and not think twice about the reason Zorka Petrovic, the main character in a few of the comics in the novel, looks like a cat. The art style even appears to take on the look of old cartoon characters like Mickey Mouse. Apart from the womanly figure and adultness of Zorka, she could fit right into the Mickey Mouse clubhouse. Why put a character like this in something not for children? On one hand, taking a character like Zorka flips the idea of cute cartoons on its head. It subverts expectations by putting this cute anthropomorphic character into this awful situation, but it also helps the reader feel less bad about everything Zorka is going through, because it's harder to connect to a bipedal sexy cat thing than another human being. She's seen as less than human. No one else in the story seems to mention her strange appearance, but she is clearly treated badly. This is because we are experiencing the story from her point of view. She may be treated badly, but no one else in the story seems to suggest that she looks unhuman. It's her that suggests this. We as the viewer aren't seeing what others see. We're seeing what she sees, and she thinks that she's less than human. On top of that, she's a woman seeing herself as a cat, which can be equated to the female genitalia. She sees herself as nothing more than that, not only less than human, but just mostly a useless vessel for men to throw around as they wish, which is actually what starts the story and the problems she needs to fix throughout it.
That's all, folks.
Thank you for listening.